Um, this isn't a question that I'm answering, but I thought I'd just add this in to just help you guys out in terms of my thinking a little bit. I think what's happened here is MSC and the market have become out of sync, and we built our business 20 years ago, and even up to 10 years ago, on a market that I think valued for a market that for them education was a real privilege. If you could get a tertiary education, it was seen in high regard. It was a high privilege thing. And remember, this is South Africa. We're coming out of a legacy of apartheid where, and I think your black students 20 years ago, to get a tertiary education qualification was a big deal. It was a privilege. And I think as time's gone on, and I'm referring to some data in front of me, generally your poverty rates around the world have drastically declined in the last 20 to 30 years. There's much fewer people in absolute poverty, and this is a worldwide thing. And if you look at South Africa, we complain about the governing the government quite a lot, but there's obviously been a high level of investment in the public sector. What's happened is your number of black South Africans passing grade 12, just some statistics, but in 1985 it was 38,000. In 2013 it's 349,000. So there's a whole different market that's been created here. The other interesting thing is things like formal and informal housing. In 1996, 64% of the population had access to formal housing. In 2015, it's 78.1%. So now people have more access to better housing. The biggest thing is also electricity. And if I could zone into the Eastern Cape, for example, which is a province in South Africa, in 1996, 68% of the population in the Eastern Cape had no electricity. In 2016, only 15% of the population in the Eastern Cape had no electricity. So you can see that South Africans have kind of like ridden a wave of now suddenly we've got better housing to a certain extent, we've got more electricity, and you can see this is another cultural thing that's very different from the United States. But more importantly, what's come along with this, which is the worldwide trend, in 2010, 8% of the South African population had access to smartphones. In 2017, 47% of the South African population have access to smartphones. And what comes with smartphones, as we know? Data, the internet, everything that goes with it. Now, going back to my original point, I think MSC was built on a certain type of market where any tertiary education was a privilege. So the campuses, and you'll still see, the campuses are very toned down. They're very basic. There's nothing fancy about them. But the market has moved on. Now the market is saying, from the internet and what I'm seeing all on YouTube and Facebook and everything, and access to the whole world, I kind of know now what to expect from a tertiary education provider. I know what to expect. I see what a university life should be like. I see what a college life should be like. And I think we do need to drastically rejuvenate the interior design, interior sort of makeup of our campuses. That coolness of being a student, I think we need to stay on that wave. And I think our current campus setups, our current campus image, don't align themselves to that. Okay, so it's time to award the best question. There were two that stood out for me before I award the best. I think the two that I must recognize is Team Leopard asked, what are some of the culturally relevant differences we should know about when trying to develop a marketing strategy in South Africa compared to the US? I thought was a very relevant question, one that I did expect. Team Rhino asked, in these programs, is there a focus on career advising, or are they mostly centered on learning the skills needed to earn certificates and diplomas? Two very good questions. All of the questions were actually very good. So I must commend you, and I hope I've answered them all adequately, and if I haven't, then please just let's spend some time in December, and I know I will be seeing you guys in December. Ultimately, though, I must award the best question to Team Rhino, with a question on the career advising. I think the reason I say that is because I think that is a major challenge for us, is to get students ready for their career, and to get them ready for the workplace. If I think if education providers can really excel at putting our students who are really ready to integrate into the workplace and ready to start their careers, then I think they're on the right track. And I think that is a very relevant question, a very good question. So I'm going to award it to Team Rhino. Well done.